Hello and welcome to the Linebreak Rugby Monday podcast. You have me, your host Sav, and along with me today we have Euan.
Yep.
And as Euan, and we're going to be talking about basically the three finals leagues that are going on: the Aviva, the Pro 12, and the Top 14. As we head into the last week or the last few weeks in most of these competitions, and see who's up for grabs for winning the title overall. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
So should we start with the league that you're most familiar with, Sav, the Premiership?
We start with the Premiership. Yeah, go on then.
Let's have a go.
That's a good shout. So there's one game left as far as I can tell. Mm-hmm. Played 21 and there's 12 teams, so they've got 22 games. And it's very tight in the actual top four. Well, actually no, it's tight in the top three. So the interesting thing here is that Leicester have pretty much got fourth wrapped up.
Yeah.
And then there's a fight for who's going to come first, to be honest. And we've got Saracens v Wasps at the weekend and Exeter. I've forgotten who Exeter are playing again. Maybe
Gloucester.
Northampton? Gloucester.
I think it is. And Northampton are playing Harlequins, which is also an important game because it decides, well, I'm not sure if it really... I think it might still be important because they're the teams in sixth and seventh.
Yep.
And is it the sixth team that gets Champions Cup? Yeah. So basically, the team that wins out of that is probably going to get Champions Cup, and then the other one's going to have to go into the Champions Cup qualifier.
Yeah.
Gloucester, I think, have a real outside chance of. No, they got beaten by Bath.
No, they're too far away
now. So it's really between Quins and Northampton to see if who gets the Champions Cup and see if Louis Picamoles sticks around or not.
Yeah, and that, to be fair, could be a big deciding factor for him. He's a big signing. There's a lot of money gone into him, and Northampton haven't really shown up outside of the odd.
This would be devastating for Northampton because they made a big deal about how they're going to improve for next year. Like after the season, their fans have been really disappointed, and they've been talking about how the big signing is Rob Horn, which was maybe a little bit of a letdown to some people, but still a good signing. And they've also brought in Piers Francis, and there's another Cobus Reinach, I think they brought in from Sharks as well. So if they lose Picamoles, like that's a bit of a dent in their claim that they're going to be a challenging force next year.
A top team,
yeah.
I don't want to too much about Saints because the problem is I think they are playing for something, but they're that top three to me is the most interesting. Wasps, Exeter, Saracens, like that's they're playing for a home semi-final. So we've got Saracens. If they beat Wasps, then they leapfrog them completely.
Yep.
And in the same breath, if Exeter also win their game and Saracens win their game, then Exeter will come top of the table. Which, for a team that was in the Championship not too long ago, I don't think it's been done. I mean, it might have been done, but not in the professional era, as far as I can tell.
Were the playoffs last year your first time in the playoffs? Or were you in it before?
It was the first time in the final. Were we in the playoffs? I think we came like 5th or 6th one season.
Yeah, it wasn't your first time in Champions Cup, I know that, but it was like...
Exeter came 5th in 2015, and they came 8th. No, that was the first time in the playoffs. Yep. First time in the playoffs.
You made it to the finals.
Made the final, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people were
so, I mean, it's been a... And to be honest, if I look at the progression, if we come first this year, it will be a progression every single year.
Yeah. As
in, we will have gone up from 2014 onwards. It's gone 8th, 5th, 2nd, 1st, and that as a trend line graph would just be fantastic.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm counting it a bit early, but
it really is some progression because, like, you think where teams start off in the Championship is such a low level compared to the Premiership, and then Exeter have managed to climb their way up. It's unbelievable how they've managed to do that because, like, Bristol, with all their money, like, they came up this year from the Championship and they've simply not been good enough. They found they can't buy their way in, but Exeter managed to do something with youth that is a fair bit different from any other team have managed. Because a lot of your players are similar from last year as well. Like, a lot of your top players are.
It's not. Yeah, there's not been a massive rotation. Baxter hasn't gone out there and gone, we're buying this name and he's playing week in, week out. I mean, we bought Campagnaro and everybody thought, okay, he's going to be playing. But they didn't even blood him that quickly.
It's only this season that he's really started getting games.
Yeah. And I can never imagine Northampton buying... I mean, obviously Campagnaro is different from Pickamoles, but I can never mind Northampton or Bristol or somebody buying a player and then not playing him for a while, letting him get into the groove of the team and then playing him. There aren't many teams that would do that, to bring a player in so slowly.
Yeah. And you've got some good news for next year. You're holding on to Thomas Francis by the looks of things.
We are?
Yep.
I was sure they'd head back.
The Welsh haven't managed to get him on a central contract. That was just on the BBC website this morning.
Okay. Well, that is good news for us because he has been, our mauling and our forward play is bread and butter, really. We get a lot of plaudits because we play quite fast, but I mean, at the end of the day, we score a lot of tries through our mauls. So.
Yeah, and especially, what's he called? Your Kiwi Englishman. I should know him.
Kiwi Englishman?
Yeah, played for Leicester, scrum cap, Choo Choo.
Oh, Waldrum.
Waldrum, yeah. Got everything besides his name, Thomas Waldrum.
Yeah. Thomas Waldrum. Yeah, I mean, that's his bread and butter as well, scoring off the back of a maul.
Yeah.
And it's working for us. I think the most interesting thing is the try bonus points we've got. We have the most try bonus points.
Uh-huh.
We've actually won 2 less games than Saracens, but because we have 6 more try bonus points,
you seem to win a lot of games by like scoring 30 or 40 points. It seems to be a common thing with you. It's weird with me because Exeter seem to be the team that snuck up on me this year. I've not really paid much attention to Exeter. I've sort of been focusing on Wasps because they've got all those stellar signings and they look incredibly dangerous, and then Saracens because of the Champions Cup form and like how they've been demolishing teams in that.
100%, yeah.
It's just weird how they've sort of stuck up on me. And did you have too many players away with England this year? That's probably helped you to the extent
it's helped us a lot because we genuinely haven't had that many people leaving.
Yeah.
And plenty of people have made that point, but there was the thing that interested me most was that there was a comment made. It was Exeter versus Harlequins, and everyone was saying, "Oh, Harlequins have had a bad season." Someone else said, "Yeah, but they've had all their players gone." And I was like, "But they're getting beat by Exeter now, and they've got all their players back."
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I was just thinking to myself, "Yeah, they've got all their internationals back. They're playing. Maybe there's a lack of continuity, and obviously when they drop into England or Scotland, or because Vissa's obviously gone back up and things like that, they lose continuity. But." They're a good enough standard, and they still lose when the boys are back. So I don't know.
Yeah,
that has helped. It has helped. I would never say that it hasn't helped.
And Rob Back's just been a steady hands controlling everything for a long time. He's not. He's sort of like managed to keep confidence in the team. I think to a large extent, he's really got to be commended because he's been with you for a few years now.
Yeah. Well, at the beginning of the season, he I think he'll rightly say. They tried to put Slade into a more leading role.
Mm-hmm.
They started him at 10 for a couple of games. They were kind of hinting that he was going to take over from Steenson. And then we didn't win the first couple. And then Steenson got brought back, and suddenly we started playing the way that we used to play the year before.
Yeah.
So I'm not this transition. I think we're going to struggle when Steenson disappears. To be honest with you, because
there's a few players that are a bit older now. How old's Witten as well? Like he'll be
Witten's getting on. Dolman's late 20s, I think, so he's not as bad. But there are the odd thing.
Yeah.
And Waldrom's getting on and all.
Yeah, people do talk about you being a young team as well, but Parlin's quite old as well. He's a fairly old player. Salvi, I think. How old's Woodburn? I don't know how old Woodburn is.
I think Woodburn. He looks young. I don't know if that's
I don't know.
If that's a good description of Ollie Woodburn, but it's interesting at second row because we do have quite a lot of young depth at second row, which is quite useful. But I'm not 100% sure if they're at the same standard as perhaps a Parling, but they'll certainly be playing. Ollie Woodburn's 25, so...
Oh, he's younger than I thought he was.
He's a Bath...
I don't know why. I thought he was an older player for some reason.
No, well, yeah. I think it's James Short who might be older than you think, but then we'll look up James Short and I bet he'll be like 26 or something. So,
yeah.
But anyway, the Aviva Prem's really the battle for first. The top four, as in it will be a Wasps, Exeter, Saracens, Leicester battle in for those playoff places.
And we have to see how Leicester turn up.
Leicester, it's interesting. I think Leicester will be quite happy to have even made it this year because they had quite a shocking...
start of the season when they got demolished by Glasgow in the Champions Cup twice, and they had a horrible Champions Cup run to an extent. Actually, they beat Munster, I think, didn't they? And
did they beat Munster before Foley? Was that what happened?
Yeah, I think that might have happened.
Because Munster then suddenly really went on one.
Yeah,
so. Yeah, but so the Munster of then are perhaps not the Munster of now, but still.
Munster had a horrible start. I've talked about this in the last 3 podcasts I've done, but Munster got beaten by Cardiff quite badly at home in their first game, and people were thinking, "Oh, Munster are looking terrible this year," and then it's completely turned around for them.
They just went on a tear. They just are very hard to stop, and I mean this brings us quite neatly into the Pro 12. Into the Pro 12 conversation.
So, it's
definitely your area of expertise.
Yeah. With the Pro 12, it's definitely it's pretty much confirmed who are going to be in top 4. Ulster would have to score like 80 points against Leinster and hope Ospreys didn't get anything, and that would be the only way that would be upset. So it's goes Leinster top, Munster second, Scarlets third, and the Ospreys in fourth. There is one important fixture at the weekend. Ospreys are playing Scarlets at the Parky Scarlets, and they could maybe take the third position, which could be pretty important. But you have to favour both the Irish teams when they're playing at home. Like Thomond Park is not a place you want to go.
It's looking quite. I mean, I'm just glancing at it. It's looking very likely to be a Leinster-Munster final, really.
Yeah, and it's at the Viva as well, so that's the perfect place to have the final this year for that.
And that would be a huge money earner. I mean, that's that's a big old game. That I tell you what, I don't know why, but I would love the Scarlets to just get in there.
Yeah. It would be great because Scarlets were the sort of team last year that also made a big impression with the internationals away for the World Cup, and they were making a big impression like Connacht, but they sort of fell away more come December time. Well, Connacht still went on going. Scarlets just didn't seem to manage against the first tier internationals coming back, and admittedly they probably had quite a lot of internationals gone as well compared to Connacht, but they managed to adapt to it quite well. But it's good to see that they're performing well this year, and they've got some backline. Their backline is unbelievable. It's if it goes Jonathan Davis and Scott Williams both in the centres is something for them. And then they've got Hadley Parks as a stand-in as well. And they've also got McNichol, who hasn't impressed as much as some people would think. DTH, Steph Evans, and Liam Williams in the back three. So
DTH. I mean, that's a team, isn't it? Really, that's just that's some firepower.
The back row's pretty good as well.
They've got James Davies in the back row, and they've got Ken Owens and
John Barclay as well.
You've got to get the.
Got to get the Scot in, yeah.
Got to get the Scot in. Just to bring you back down to earth, Edinburgh have had a pretty shocking.
Why are you bring this up? there's no relevance to the playoffs at all with Edinburgh. Like it's just Edinburgh have nothing to play for. We're not getting caught by the Italians at least. But
there's a gulf. I've just glanced at it, and it goes 44 points, and then there's a massive gulf, and then 27. Yeah. You're definitely in the bottom.
Well,
the bottom section.
Did you see Edinburgh's game last weekend?
I didn't. It was too depressing that weekend before, so I've given up.
Edinburgh actually managed to pull off a comeback. you know how like the week before you watched Edinburgh, and you thought Edinburgh were going to come back into this, they're actually doing something, and then they sort of fell flat on their face. Well, they actually managed to pull it off in like the last 10 minutes. They scored 3 tries and won the game. Like that was the biggest celebration that Edinburgh fans have had all year, and it was against the Dragons.
Oh really? Oh, of course it was.
Yeah. So it means that we're not getting caught by the Italians, and probably not by Dragons either.
The Dragons might get caught by the Italians.
Yeah.
There's still a chance the Dragons can come lower.
Yeah. Because what they've made this last round of fixtures, they made it all regional rivalries again. Mm-hmm. So basically, in years gone by, they focused all the regional rivalries around Christmas time, New Year's time. But now, obviously, with the Welsh and the Irish, there's more rivalries because there's more teams there. But with the Scots and Italians, it used to always just be played at Christmas time, Christmas time or so. But now they've moved it. I've just wait a sec. I've got to go because I've got someone at the door.
All right, no worries.
Sorry, just a sec.
Could play elevator music through this bit. I've forgotten what we were banging on about.
We were talking about
Edinburgh's amazing. So we just fold straight back in as if nothing's happened.
Yeah. Oh, had a little interruption there. Well, I was actually talking about like how this is sort of around regional rivalries. So it means that certain regional neighbours can sort of mess up things for their neighbours. There's nothing really between the Scottish teams, but the Italians, it's sort of this game comes down to determining who wins the Champions Cup spot, and one of them teams is probably going to win, and Dragons might get pushed below the Italians by losing to Cardiff. I think they're playing at the weekend.
The Blues.
So, So there's that. But otherwise, there's not too much to fight for in the last round apart from Pride, because the top few spots are pretty much wound up already, and Glasgow can't catch Ulster, and it's
from a monetary point of view, I can see why the Pro 12 have done it, because a rivalry will always bring people through the door.
Yeah.
And as a last game of the season sort of celebration, it makes sense that you would have them back home playing each other.
It kind of breaks up the 1872 Cup for the Edinburgh and Glasgow though, which is a little bit of a shame though, because there was always like a sort of theme to do with like all those games were around Christmas time, and people just got excited for that, and that was like a sort of mini series in itself that people paid attention to. But like
now, I feel like they could still do that though, couldn't they? Couldn't they have one of the games, and then the other game is at the end of the season? So one of the games Christmas, and the other game end of the season.
Yeah, they do that, but it's like people forget about it to an extent. Like like people say, "Oh, looking forward to next weekend" and that. But to be honest, Glasgow always seem to have the second leg of it, and they always sell out Scotstoun. So it's Edinburgh. Like Edinburgh might struggle to sell seats at times, but they do get the bigger crowds when the games are at Murrayfield, because obviously 60,000 seater stadium, they can get about 20,000 people.
You can half fill it, a third fill it, and you've already outsold. So
there's that,
of course.
But so with I still think it'll be one of the Irish teams in the final that'll take it. Difficult to call it between Leinster and Munster though. I'm not sure who's best placed out of them. Like, they've both been great. I would have said Munster a few weeks ago, but
I think Leinster are on the up, aren't they?
Yeah, Leinster are on the up to an extent as well, but like a few weeks ago I would have said Munster. They're both strong teams. It just comes down to which side's got more confidence, really. I
have another question for you.
Yeah.
Because I'm full of random questions at the moment. So the fact that Leinster and Munster are both 1 and 2, does that mean Ulster don't get in the Champions Cup?
No, they do get in Champions Cup, because it will go. Basically, it's the. It'll be the top 5. So it's the basically goes one team from each country gets into the Champions Cup, and then it's the 3 best teams after that. So let's say Leinster are the top Irish team, and then Scarlets are the best Welsh team, Glasgow the best Scottish team, and Treviso or Zebra the best
would then be
Italian team.
Ospreys, Ulster, Blues.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, no, Blues wouldn't get in. It would go Munster, Ospreys, and Ulster would be the other teams that got in.
So Ulster would just about make it. Okay.
Yeah. Well, Ulster have pretty much got that spot. Cause
Connacht would have to overtake them, or Blues would. Yeah, it wouldn't work anyway.
Yeah, it would work. It's well away, so it's how it works out with that. It's a bit convoluted in a way, but
it does actually make sense. Now you've explained it. Because I thought that Ulster, I was looking at it and going, that would be a bit unfair, but you've explained it. It makes sense.
Yeah.
So
hopefully that works. But
is it like so? This is my next question, because you know lots of things about Champions Cup and stats that I perhaps don't. Is there like the Champions League? They get money for playing in the Champions Cup?
I'm not sure if they do. They probably get more money from like TV. Well, I'm not sure how it gets divvied up, because with the SRU, everything goes into like a central pot. So if Glasgow made more money from the Champions Cup, it should really go into a central pot. But like Glasgow do get a slightly bigger proportion of the budget than Edinburgh do now. I think the money goes to the unions rather than the clubs in under the EPCR thing, because this was a big thing with like how the European Cup was reorganised.
Yeah.
Because basically, the Premiership Rugby wanted like the money to go to Premiership Rugby rather than RFU, which they wanted more of a say for clubs, and I'm not sure if that's changed it so the clubs get the money. But beforehand, I know it was definitely the union that got it, and then the union just decided how they wanted to divvy it up.
Which makes sense for Ireland and Scotland to a certain extent, but for the English Premiership and I don't know, Wales are centrally contracting people, I suppose, at the moment. With the RFU,
yeah, but they're private clubs. It's like they're sort of half private, but they're in regions. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean Wales is a bit of a mess, but I mean the Premiership money going to the RFU, and I can understand the gripe with the clubs going, look, we've earned that position.
Yeah.
Why is the RFU getting the money? And I suppose the RFU have to justify it in some way.
Yeah.
And I just wonder what that justification is. How are they feeding back into the club system? And there must be a way that they're doing it or trying to justify it, but I'm not really 100% clear on
that. I'm not 100% sure of that either at the moment. It's I don't know, because I think it will go to unions still. I've never seen mention about like how Glasgow are for a windfall for making Champions Cup. I'll compare it to like the Champions League in football, like, because if Celtic make the Champions League, for example, they get a whole lot more than any other Scottish team will get that season just by getting into the Champions League, and there's actually a small amount of money that gets distributed to the rest of Scottish football for getting a team into the Champions League, but I don't know if there's something similar with us, sadly, with rugby.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that is the comparison, because it's the old thing where Arsenal always get into the Champions League and then just drop out. Basically, they get knocked out, whatever. But they've got their money, so the owners are happy.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering if Ulster or Glasgow or these teams would actually get a windfall. And I was looking at Italy, in fact, because could it be a big money earner for one of those teams to actually get into the Champions Cup, or is it just more rugby that they have to play?
That's weird, because Zebra in Italy have got half and half system. Like Zebra is owned by the union, but Treviso are a private club, which is weird as well. So I don't know if they get money for that, because Treviso usually get into the Champions Cup, but they didn't manage it this year. And if they're probably looking for the extra money for being Champions Cup, but they would it's tough with the Italians, because I look at it from a Scottish point of view, and I would always like one of the Scottish teams to be in the Champions Cup, but like with the Italians, they are more competitive in the Challenge Cup.
Yeah. And it would almost serve them to be to at least have that chance of a competitive rugby, rather than just get beaten continuously.
Yeah.
Every single game with no chance of ever getting better.
Yeah.
I don't know. The Italian anyway. That's like the intricacies of the Italians in the Pro 12 overall anyway.
Yeah.
Which is another conversation. But talk to me about Leinster Munster. Who you're backing? Who do you reckon's going to go all the way?
I'll go Munster just because I like their sort of system, and I like how Conor Murray and Tyler Bleendale sort of combined together.
I really like Bleendale.
Yeah, and they just seem like the more sort of coherent team this year. But I don't know. Leinster will have home field advantage in being the Vivo, so they might get a few more fans in from Dublin area, but I don't know if they'll sort of split up the fan base to an extent.
Maybe, but I don't know.
It's kind of difficult to pick out who's got the real advantage in it. Like, obviously, Leinster have Sexton to rely on, and then they've got their centres and Rules and Henshaw, and they're a big impact on the game. But then there's some exciting players in the Munster backline as well, with Tauti and Scannell and Sweetnam and things like that.
Yeah, I mean that will be a bit of a clash if that is the final. After all, I'm hoping Scarlets Ospreys do actually upset the apple cart a little bit.
Yeah. And then you get Ospreys nicking it away from Leinster again, because there was one year that Leinster were making a big deal about it, how it was going to be their final and they were going to win it, and they'd been at the top for most of the season, and I think it was the first Pro 12 playoff. It was the first time they introduced it, and then Ospreys nicked it in Dublin, and I think the Leinster fans were pretty angry about it at the time.
It's interesting. I mean, yeah, I think it's rugby fans all over the world, but they do get very upset about historic rivalries. So if that happens again, I can imagine the depressive cycle that Harbour will go through.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Yeah. Let's talk about the top 14.
Which probably is the most exciting end to the season, I think, because they don't have a normal playoff like the other leagues. They have a barrage or something like that. Fred
calls it a barrage. It looks like a playoff, to be honest with you, but it's not. It's a barrage.
But basically, it goes like there's 6 teams qualify for the barrage. Top 2 miss the first round, and they go through to the semi-finals automatically. So at the moment, it's La Rochelle and Clermont, and then it's the 4 teams after that. They go to a quarter-final stage, and they basically the third and fourth get a home quarter-final. Then the winner of that goes on to the semi-finals in Marseille, I think it is this year, and then the final I think will be in the Stade de France.
Yeah.
But it currently goes with La Rochelle, the big sort of surprise of this season. Like, they're well out in front on 84 points at the top of the table, and they've been a phenomenon. Like, they're one of the teams with the smallest budgets in top 14, third smallest budget in top 14, and they've managed to romp to the top of the table. It's helped by them not having too many internationals, I guess, but it's something to be admired. And then Clermont and Montpellier are vying for that second home semi-final, which is pretty important. And Clermont are just ahead at the moment, but Clermont, who do they have this weekend? Clermont have got quite a big game, I think. I think it might be Clermont versus Montpellier, and that sort of decides who gets.
That'll decide second place.
That decides who gets second place. Oh wait, no, it's Clermont versus La Rochelle, and so basically La Rochelle can decide who's going to be the other team with the home semi-final. So if La Rochelle get a away win to Clermont, that could ruin Clermont's hope. Well, not ruin it, but make it a lot tougher for them in the playoffs.
They'd have to go through the quarter-finals, eh?
Yeah. And
it's the 6, 7, 8 that really interests me. I mean, 2 and 3, both those teams are quite good. I'll expect them to go through the quarterfinal, whichever one ends up in the quarterfinal.
Yeah.
But 6, 7, 8, we've got PAL, Stade Francais and Racing, or Racing,
Yep.
separated by a point. And
Yep.
all,
and then Lyon and
drawing.
Brive and Bordeaux can still theoretically make the playoffs as well.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Lyon is still in with an outside chance, and it's going to be a very, very interesting last day of the season.
Yeah, they're all late.
In fact, no, they've got two games left, haven't they? 2 games.
Have they got 2 games? Have they got a game in hand? No, it should be all.
No, they've got. No, there might only be 1 game.
Yeah, it's only 1 game. They have. The French have extra rounds though, because like obviously it's a 14-team league. It goes on to what is it, 26? Yeah, 26 rounds compared to 22 for the Pro 12 and Premiership. I was looking at the Pro D2 table earlier on, and they go through 30 rounds of games because I think there's 16 teams.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
See, that's a brutal schedule, that.
But they don't have any cup competition as well, so that's
I suppose that's true. But I mean, Racing. So the people who are basically safe, Toulon, Castres, and La Rochelle, they will sit in 1st, 4th, and 5th.
Yeah.
Pretty much. That's guaranteed for those teams. We've then got Clermont Montpellier. They've qualified for the barrage or the playoffs, but whether they'll come 2nd or 3rd still to be decided. And then we've got Racing, Stade, Pau, Lyon, Brive, and Brive are still in there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge amount of teams that going into the last day could still qualify to win the whole thing.
I've got to say, it's far more exciting than what the Pro 12 has tomorrow. Like, it's like one thing that's mildly interesting, like, and that's about it.
I mean, it's exciting. It is phenomenally exciting. I would say that it's a little bit unfair that you can finish 10th and on the day before, the last game in the season, and then make it to the final and win.
Well, it's just because they take points off each other all the time. Because in France, like, teams don't win away from home really; they sort of all win at home. And I think it's La Rochelle that are the only team that have more away wins than losses this year.
And like, you've just this is what the bonus podcast was all about.
Really?
Well, we can link it in the thing, but we had the bonus points podcast. Was essentially talking about La Rochelle were the only team to have won games away from home, and that's why they're so far ahead. Everybody else is just basically they just lose away from home.
Yeah.
And
Clermont used to win away from home as well, but they've not been as deadly this year. Like they've also had the Champions Cup to focus on though as well.
If you're listening on YouTube, click on the link. I'll have left it down below. You can have a look at the article that explains the technicalities behind it all. So that was quite interesting, but I don't know. I'm excited for La Rochelle. Victor Vito is playing for them now, isn't he?
Yep, and Winnie Antonio, the huge 24-stone prop who plays lock now.
Yeah,
he's locked now.
He's 2nd row now. He's
occasionally he changes between the two. You can't decide.
He's built for the 2nd row. Just imagine having essentially 4 props on the pitch.
Yeah.
At a scrum. Scrum time would be horrible. I'd hate to be in that scrum against that lot.
And one of their locks, Kwovu, who's a Fijian lock, he looks like a prop to an extent as well. He's a bit of a barrel-chested guy. Yeah. So it's like a huge pack they've got to go with their backs and that. And they've got like a fairly good back row as well, because you already mentioned Vito, who's been pretty important for them. And then they've got Gourdon as well, who's
been fantastic.
Yeah, they keep on raving about him. Like, he's one of the big exciting players that sort of gives the French a bit of hope at Six Nations time now.
Mm-hmm. He really is going to be a talisman, I think, for French rugby.
Yeah,
he's carrying quite a lot of the nation's hopes on his shoulders, I think. So hopefully he lives up to it.
Yeah, they've also got another exciting young player. Well, Gourdon is not that young, but they've got this Alex Retier guy, who's at the moment is usually their replacement scrum half, but he started against Edinburgh and he ripped Edinburgh to shreds. Like, there was 2 tries that he made himself, and it was like unbelievable. One of the tries, he sort of kicked it down the touchline, ran after it, caught himself, and caught it like no one was defending like the blind side of a ruck, and he just spotted it and went like about ran the whole 22, and yeah, it's pretty good, special.
That's pretty phenomenal. So keep an eye out for him.
Yeah, and he'll give Seren a bit of competition as well.
All right. I can. Is that the what's chiming in the background?
That's an old clock in the house.
Oh right, really? You got an old grandfather clock type thing, or?
Yep. Told you, it's an old farmhouse.
That's brilliant. I could just hear the gentle chiming. I feel like I want to go and visit just for some sort of historical record.
Just notch off your list.
Yeah, just visit old Scottish farmhouse.
Yeah, fair enough.
Is Dan Carter uninjured and still playing? Because I heard talk of him playing for the Barbarians.
He played last weekend against Stade Francais, so I don't think he got injured in that.
All right,
they had.
Yeah, go on.
Well, they had the whole drama last weekend of Pascal Pape getting sent off in his last game, and he took off Wenceslao Laurie off with him as well, because both got red carded. I think it was a pretty good game by the sounds of it. It was quite tuned for. They went back and forth a fair bit, and Stade got away with the score in the end, and that sort of sets things up quite nicely for this weekend, because Stade Francais and Racing are two of the teams that are chasing that last barrage spot. They're probably the two that are in closest contention.
I mean, any of them, but yeah, those two are the two top picks, I would say, at the moment.
And Racing also have their last game at home as well, which is a big thing. So they're probably in the best position.
Oh, actually, yeah, looking at that. Wait, highlighted in yellow, what does that say? Advances to the playoff chance to compete in the Champions Cup. So it's a chance to get into the Champions Cup is what Stade Francais are in at the moment, in 7th. So even I think even Bordeaux maybe could make that.
Yeah, but
if things go really weirdly, Bordeaux could still make it into the Champions Cup.
I think they could still make the barrage as well.
If you add 5 points, 4 points, I don't know if they can.
Can it? Maybe not.
I don't think they can.
They did. They were able to make it last weekend, but yeah, they probably
not this week. I think they've fallen away. Sadly. But yeah, if you're watching rugby this weekend, maybe switch on a bit of top 14 and get involved in the drama behind it, because I actually think that's the one that's least followed in, at least in English-speaking circles, which makes sense, but it's possibly the most exciting this weekend.
Yeah. And all the games kick off at 7:45 tomorrow, British time anyway, and they're all at the same time. Every single Northern Hemisphere league is doing that, so like all the games in England kick off at 4 o'clock British time, and the Pro 12 games I think all kick off at 5:15 or something similar like that.
So I need to edit this and get this up almost immediately.
Yep.
Excellent.
Basically.
That'll be great. I'm enjoying that. That'll go down a treat. So yeah, I'm going to quickly. So who's your call for winning the Aviva? If we just bring it back round quickly.
Sarries.
I think Sarries are the favourites.
Yeah.
Even though they come third, they lost quite a lot of internationals. Blah. Yeah, I think Saracens. I would love Exeter to do it this year.
They just look deadly,
and to figure it out.
I think they work for knockout rugby. It's what's been shown in the Champions Cup. They just they work well in these knockout competitions.
They know how to win games, and to be honest with you, that's the point, isn't it? Really.
Yeah. And then I'll go for Munster in the Pro 12.
You're backing Munster. I think I like Munster and the way they play, but I think Leinster on the up. So I'm gonna say Leinster, and I'd love the Scarlets to throw a spanner into the woodwork or whatever. A spanner into the mechanism. Just throw a spanner. Just throw spanners.
Yeah, don't throw a spanner into woodwork. I don't think that'll work.
I've forgotten the phrase, but yeah, just throw spanners. So I'd like
Throwing a spanner in the
Scarlets
works.
to upset the apple cart, I think is what I said.
Yeah.
And top 14 to win it, to win the whole thing.
Well, I'm not sure about La Rochelle because they've wobbled recently. I would hope La Rochelle would make it, but
They lost to Gloucester, right?
yeah. But like the French top 14, it always seems to be like a surprise. Like Stade say won it a few years ago, and they came in like sixth, I think, and made it all the way to the final or something. They might have not came in sixth, but they were a real surprise winning the top 14 a few years ago.
I still wouldn't discount Toulon from doing it. I know it's like the cliche to just go with the name that everybody knows.
Yeah.
But they've qualified and they're comfortable. They can almost rest players this weekend if they want. They've got nothing to gain from beating themselves up, and then they can come out quite fresh for the quarterfinal, semi-final, and then just.
Well, they could lose their fourth place spot to Castro.
Well, they could, but then they're in fifth, so it's not a huge. It's not a
Well,
huge deal. I don't know.
It means going away in the quarterfinals rather than staying at home.
Oh, that's true. So rather than play Castro at home, they'd be playing Castro away. Yeah, that is true.
So that's pretty major for them.
That's quite a big thing in French rugby, to be fair. Yeah. I always forget there's such a huge deal about the home, but I have talked about it on 2 podcasts in a row now, so I should really start to switch on to that a little bit.
Yeah. I'm not sure who I'll go for. Maybe Clermont, but they're known as chokers. But I'll get past the cliche and I'll say Clermont probably will win it.
I'd say outside chance Pau, just because I like.
You like Pau, just because the name Pau.
Because you're meant to say Pau. I think that's the French. I want Fred to listen to this and just to be screaming because I reckon Pau. Because you're not meant to say it Pau. It's definitely pronounced something else. But that's the outside chance. I think that
they've got
if
Colin
Racing and
Slades,
Stad
they've
lose,
got Conrad Smith,
I don't know who are Pau playing.
Pau are playing Toulon this weekend.
There you go. Well, this goes to my theory. Toulon don't care, whatever. Even though you've said they did. And Pau win.
But Toulon are at home, so that's not happening.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
Ain't happening.
Yeah, that actually might not happen. Well, still, outside chance. I really want that to happen. That's what I want to happen. What I expect to happen is Toulon to win overall, actually. Which is a cliche, but I think very possible.
Yeah. Moured Bougelet? How do you say it?
I say Bougelet, but...
Bougelet.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, he'll be disappointed with this year if he doesn't get anything. He's probably going to chop a few heads off and throw them in the Mediterranean. I don't know.
He's I don't know. I think he's
He sacked 2 coaches this year.
But he's definitely a coach hater.
Yeah, because he sacked Mike Ford and Mike Ford resigned with probably a lot of pressure from him, and Diego Dominguez, like, who'd been groomed for over a year and then got sacked within like the first few months or something like that.
That's Cockrell's job now, isn't it?
Cockrell is only there until the summer, and then he's coming to Edinburgh.
Oh, of course. He's gonna try and revitalise this Edinburgh team.
Yep.
Look forward to some big forward rugby with. Actually, no, his back's all right, but he loves a bit of grunt work, to be honest.
Well, he's always like this past year. When he was at Leicester, they recruited quite a lot of big name backs like Tamura and Peterson and people like that. But he was criticised for not like using them properly.
Yeah, he doesn't. The thing is, and this is going off topic kind of, but Cockrell, to me, he's a guy who knows his forwards inside out. He's very technically minded. He gets the little things right for the forwards, but he kind of lets the backs do their own thing. He'll pick big name backs and then he'll make them kind of figure it out, which isn't necessarily a bad thing as long as you've got quite a creative backline, and that's what he's planned on buying. But it's not always effective.
Oh, well, I'm not sure how Leicester's backs are going to do next year, because a lot of people were talking about how Freddie Burns has really came into his own in the last few months. Like, he's basically
I really like Freddie Burns and his style.
Like his kick is. He has a weird kicking.
He has a weird kicking style, but he reminds me of a kind of like a Cipriani-esque. Like, he plays everything really fast,
Yeah.
I think he's a bit better perhaps than Cipriani. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
He's more composed than Cipriani. I don't think he's... Well, I don't know.
I hope he's more composed than Cipriani.
Yeah. Everything goes to hell with Cipriani if... like they did in Dublin occasionally. You go watch that with him.
Right. I think this has been it. This has been Linebreak. Music's probably playing at some point.
Yep.
So we've got Sarries winning, Munster or Leinster, and then an absolute mess in the top 14. We're not sure.
Yeah, no idea.
I'm back in Toulon. Maybe Clermont. I don't know.
We should have had Fred on. He would be able to keep us right.
Fred wouldn't know. Fred would have backed. Who's Fred backing? Montpellier. There you go. Fred backs Montpellier. There you go.
Money Montpellier.
Yeah, spot on. He's not messaged me that, but definitely. That's if you're gonna blame Fred, put your money on Montpellier and blame Fred.
Yep.
Right, I've got to edit this now, so let's do that.
Alright, fine. Stop. Should we stop recording?
Yeah, I've stopped.
Alright.